Hey everyone, what's happening? Today we're going to take a brief look into Peppermint OS, the new version. Some people are calling it Peppermint 11, but really it's not Peppermint 11. It's an entirely new base. It is based on Debian stable and not Ubuntu. So we're going to go ahead and go into Peppermint OS. I'm going to be installing it in a VM using Virt Manager. And this is actually my first time trying to do anything in Virt Manager. So this is actually going to be an experiment in itself because I've never used Virt Manager. I've always used VirtualBox. So let's go ahead, jump over to Virt Manager and get our VM started and installing Peppermint OS. Before we jump into the VM, I'd like to make a note that this is the first release of Peppermint OS since Mark Greaves passed away in January 2020. The Linux community took a major loss that day, and all of his friends truly miss him. And now back to the video. So here we are in Virt Manager, and I've already started creating the virtual machine. I've given this virtual machine 2 CPU cores and 10 gigabytes of hard drive space. That should be more than enough to install Peppermint. And we're going to go ahead and also I've put 4 gigs of RAM as it's for this VM as well. So we're just going to go ahead and click forward. I'm just going to rename this to Peppermint. And as you can see, I've given it 4 gigabytes of RAM, 2 CPUs, 10 gigabytes of storage. I'm going to go ahead and hit finish, and it should bring up my VM and start it in just a second. Okay, now we're here, and I'm going to go ahead and move this to a different workspace. And now it's got my grub right here. We're just going to go ahead and hit view, full screen. There we are. So now we've got our grub right here. It's got my Peppermint OS, utilities and recovery options. I'm going to go ahead and just hit Peppermint OS. And it should bring up my Peppermint OS desktop. So here we are on the Peppermint desktop. I see this welcome to Peppermint. I'm going to go ahead and just hit this close button right here. And I'm just going to go right here to install Peppermint right here. And it's going to bring up the installer to install Peppermint in the VM. Alright, so now it says welcome to the Peppermint installer. This is Calamaris, I believe. And we're going to hit next right here. Now it's going to auto detect Chicago, which is correct for my time zone. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Keyboard is US default, so we're going to go hit next. And now it's going to tell me that I need to partition my drive. I could go ahead and hit manual partition, but that's more of an advanced option. And really, you would only do this if you were dual booting with another operating system, and you would generally see that populated with more options if there was another operating system installed. So I'm going to go ahead and click erase disk and click next. Now, of course, we're going to, what is my full name? We're going to go ahead and name this Penguin. And then, of course, what is the name of the, we're just going to go and call this Pep VM. And then choose a complicated password. And I'm just going to go ahead and choose a really strong and complicated password right there. And I'm not going to hit lock in automatically without asking for password, because there'd be no point in not having a password. And now it's going to confirm everything that I've set. I'm going to press install. Now this is going to take a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off the video and wait for this to finish installing. As you can see, we're done with installing Peppermint. That took about 10 minutes to install inside the VM. I'm going to now click Done right here to restart the machine. And it's just going to restart the VM. Now it's going to ask me to remove the installation medium. I'm just going to press Enter. So now we're here on Grub again. I'm going to go ahead and press Enter to start it up. Now here we are at the login screen. I'm going to go ahead and enter my strong and complicated password into the VM, and it should bring me to the VM's desktop. Up until now, they have used LXDE as their desktop environment. They have changed that to XFCE, so that's the first thing you're going to notice. Now, when you go to Peppermint and log in for the first time, you're going to get this Welcome to Peppermint screen. And it's going to say, Welcome to Peppermint OS. We hope that you enjoy everything you need and nothing you don't. So let's go ahead before we go into this particular welcome screen. We're going to go ahead and click the menu down here and see what they've got installed. Now these look like an archive manager, known disks. Basically your accessories that are included with XFCE are included. You have the icon browser for your GTK themes. Here is your ICE for your web apps, which was Mark Greaves' baby. It's been included with Peppermint OS. You have Pulse Audio volume control right here. That's probably PAVU control. Now you also have your system settings for XFCE, and Peppermint's welcome screen is right here as well. And your dconf editor and your package installer for graphics. You have Synaptic Package Manager installed as well. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. But you've noticed something. There is no web browser installed on the system. So that's why they have this right here, install a web browser. So we're going to go ahead and click install a web browser, enter in my strong and complicated password right here, and it's going to bring up a little dialog box. Now, right here on the browser side, you have Firefox, Conqueror, GNOME Web, which is Epiphany, Falcon, Tor, Midori, Quiet Browser, which is a Vim-like browser. I've never actually used that, but then again, I don't like Vim. LuaKit and Chromium. So you have, so basically they have almost every browser that's available in the Debian repositories. We're just going to go ahead and install Firefox. Now you got software over here. You have Atril, which is a document viewer. You're going to want one of those. Transmission for BitTorrents. That all depends on if you use BitTorrent or not. Pmount, you're definitely going to want to install Pmount, especially if you're dealing with flash drives and external hard drives and other external media. You can install a media player for XFCE. Parole is what they're suggesting. You got GPIC view for the image viewer, so you're probably going to want to install that. Mate calculator if you want a calculator. Of course, it's giving you the option to install snaps or Flatpaks. Your choice. You can install one or both. We're just going to go ahead and check Snap for right now, and you're probably going to want one of these platforms because Debian Stable has a lot of old versions, and we'll get into that in a second. Then you can also install the GNOME Software Store and the YouTube download tool. So we're going to go ahead and hit install selected, and I'm going to speed it up while it's installing. And now we're done, and of course it showed all the terminal outputs right here as it was installing. So we're going to go ahead and close this. So now we're just going to go ahead and click the menu, and as you can see, we have our software all installed, including Firefox, which is Firefox ESR. Now, ESR makes sense, and that stands for Extended Support Release, because that's what's in the Debian repositories. However, most people are not going to want to use the ESR release. And honestly, I don't even know why Debian does this. This is more for corporate enterprise use than anything else. And here's why most people would not want to use it. We're going to go to About Firefox right here. Is Firefox version 78. We're on 93, I think. So this particular version of ESR is already almost 2 years old. A lot of extensions are not going to work with the ESR version. At least that's my experience with it. A lot of people might want to install a different browser like Chromium or something that's going to be more up to date for your extensions. But that's just a Debian thing. Of course, we have the image viewer installed and no Office suite. So apparently there's no Office suite installed also, and it did not give me an option to install one. So LibreOffice is missing, or WPS Office, and I'm not sure if I like that. Because most people need an Office suite. But let's go ahead, let's go down through here and go to Peppermint Extras and see what's here. Here's your theme installer, your icon installer, and your wallpaper. So we're just going to go ahead and go back. I'm not going to install all those. I think you know what themes and wallpapers are. This is going to show you how to set up ICE web apps. I'm not going to get into web apps today, but let's wait for this to come up. Now, the ICE application for web apps is something that Mark Greaves created, and I'm glad that people are still including it with Peppermint. And you can do this on any Linux distribution. You don't have to just use Peppermint for this. It's in the GitHub. I'm going to try and link the GitHub for ICE down in the description. So we're not going to get into web apps today, but that is an option. These are just applications that go in your menu and launch from your menu. And it creates like a sandbox environment. It's actually pretty cool. And then you have Pepper Hub right here, which is for your settings for dconf editor, users and groups, settings right here. Everything's all... This is basically your control panel. Here's your network and hardware, system software. So you can go ahead and hit select packages right here. Let's go ahead. Let's enter in my strong complicated password here. Here's your software packages. System information. Here's your update manager. What is your update manager? Oh, it's a terminal-based thing. So it's going to run that. Of course, I find it kind of funny that they have to respect your privacy of others. Think before you type. With great power comes responsibility for your pseudo privileges, but apparently this is terminal based. That's rather interesting. I've never seen someone do that before. I was expecting something like the Ubuntu or something else for an update manager, but there were no updates to be found. Of course, Snap Store is right here. I don't think I have that installed. And then, of course, you got FlatHub. Oh, it's going to bring up the Snap Store to install in Firefox. Okay, and then, of course, you got FlatHub, the GNOME Store, and App Image Hub. GNOME Store, I believe I actually installed that. Okay, here's software. And let's go ahead, let's go shopping. It's downloading the software catalog. I will cut this out and show you what the software Oh, here it goes. And here is your software center. And this is pulling this from the Debian repos. So we're going to go ahead and hit start. Well, I would highly suggest if you're running snaps and stuff to install the snap plugin to this, but we're not going to go into that. But here we can go to productivity right here. And this is where we should be able to install LibreOffice. Taking a second to populate. I don't really like using these graphical interfaces because they are slow. And let's go ahead, let's try and find LibreOffice here. Of course, here's Thunderbird. I didn't even see an email client as well. So you could install Thunderbird here too. Here's LibreOffice. You know what? Instead of trying to sift through this, let's just go here. There should be a search thing here. I thought that there was a search thing. It's been a while since I've used one of these software centers. Oh, here it is. Search. LibreOffice. And here it is. And we can just go ahead and install all these packages. Or I can just go and install it from the terminal. But I can just go ahead and click Install LibreOffice Writer. Enter in my strong and complicated password. And we're going to have a word processor after that. It's just as simple as that. And I also will point out that you can also manage your updates from the GNOME Software Center just fine as well. So that is an option, and it's still installing LibreOffice here. It's 98% complete. I will cut this off till this is done. And we're back. That took a really, really long time to install through the GNOME Software Center. Like I said, I do not like installing stuff through the GNOME Software Center because it's slow as f***. So we're going to go ahead and hit back for a second. And of course, we're going to open up the menu, go to Office, and here is LibreOffice. It also installed LibreOffice Math and the main program right here as well. But of course it doesn't have the rest of the suite. We'd have to go piece by piece if we were to do that in the GNOME Software Center, and that would take a long time to do. What version of LibreOffice did it install? 7.2. That's quite old actually, but that's Debian for you. So they're supporting version 7. I believe like I'm running version 7.4 on my Fedora. Something like that. I'm not even sure what version, but I know that this one's a little old. So we're going to go ahead and exit LibreOffice. And of course you've got all the installed apps right here. But as far as package management, if you want a GUI, I'd highly suggest that you go to here to Synaptic. Where was it? Right here. Synaptic Package Manager right here. Synaptic Package Manager is a lot faster. And if you want a GUI managing your packages, I would highly suggest that you use this. Here it's going to say, it's telling me what it does pretty much. But you can go ahead and just search anything. Let's just go ahead to search right here, OBS, and hit search. Should bring up OBS Studio. Well, that didn't bring up OBS Studio. Let's just search OBS Studio. All right, here it is, right here. Here's OBS Studio. It would bring up everything that was associated with OBS, and it was a long list of stuff. And then you can just go ahead and hit mark for installation right here, and then it's going to tell me all the dependencies that need to be installed for it. We're going to go ahead and mark this, and if we're going to install OBS, we should install FFmpeg as well, even though it might already be marked, but I didn't see it in the list. And I mistyped that. That should bring up FFmpeg. Here it is. And mark that for installation as well. Now that I've got all those marked, FFmpeg and OBS marked for install, we're going to go ahead and click apply. And it's going to say to be installed. All these stuff is going to tell me all the stuff that APT is. And I'm going to go ahead and click apply. And I will tell you how long it takes to install. Okay, that took about 2 minutes to install. Now, we'd still be waiting if we were installing that in the GNOME Software Center. So Synaptic Package Manager is a much more efficient and much faster program. It's just a GUI for APT, that's all it is. So we're going to go ahead and close this. So yeah, Synaptic Package Manager, much better than GNOME Software Center. GNOME Software Center is nothing but a bloated piece of shit. It's slow, and if you want a GUI, you can use this. This can also manage your updates as well. Now, let's go ahead. Let's open up OBS here inside the VM here, OBS Studio. It's going to go ahead and start this. We're going to go ahead and just cancel that for right now. I'm going to go help about. Now, we are running version 26 inside the VM right now, and that is quite an old package. It has a lot of features missing from it, and this is why you want snaps or flatpaks, because those will carry more up-to-date software if you want all those particular plugins and features for your programs. Honestly, I think Debian needs to do a better job at updating their software, but that's neither here nor there. So that was just a basic look into Peppermint OS, and well, my initial thoughts is it's empty. There's hardly any software installed besides the desktop environment. Now, for somebody who is looking for that out-of-the-box experience, something that you can just install and get to work on, this is not it. You don't have an Office suite installed by default. You don't even have the option to do that graphically at the welcome screen, which I think is a big mistake, because a lot of people are going to get confused, and if they don't know Linux, it's going to be tough for them to get that installed. Now, if you're just looking for something just to download and tinker with and get working yourself, Peppermint OS would work fine for that. However, just keep in mind it is based on Debian stable, so you're going to be getting those older packages. And that's about all I can say about Peppermint OS, and I will see you in the next video.